Hi, I'm Bracken of Bracken Outdoors and welcome to another video or episode depending on whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast player. So today I thought we'd talk a little bit about Kaizen and how it applies to us as forest school leaders. Now, Kaizen is a Japanese concept that has pretty much been the reason why Japanese manufacturing is world class. So no, immediately you're thinking, well, how does this apply to forest school? We'll get there. Hold your horses. So the basic idea with Kaizen is that every person in a company or organization should be dedicated to making small improvements wherever possible. Just 1% every day will get you world-class results. It's that constant march towards improvement. And I think that has real value for us as forest school leaders and outdoor instructors, or just as people trying to make our way in the world. The idea of constant self-improvement. It's not about making massive leaps forward. It's about breaking things down into small, manageable chunks. And going, okay, how can this area be just a little bit better? If we keep consistently making small changes, they will lead to massive changes. And this is probably something that you already have come across or applied. And specifically if you have a background in education, because this is at its core what the reflective cycle is about. This is probably something you've come across in forest school training, but a lot of us kind of just gloss over it and forget that it is actually something that we should be applying all the time. We might not do it consciously, but subconsciously it should be there in the background. And the reflective cycle is essentially you do something, you think about how it went, you reflect on it, you make some changes, and then you go back around again and you put it into action and change how you're doing things. So you might do a fire lighting activity and you go, okay, how did the fire lighting activity go? You went, well, some children struggle with the amount of force they need to apply on a fire steel. Okay, what can we do to change that? How can we make it slightly easier for them or create achievement? So we of course we might want to increase the challenge so that there is that resistance, so they feel that stress, so that they start building that resilience and that emotional intelligence. But if we just want to make it easier so that they can access the achievement, then we look at it, okay, what can we change? Might be a different fire steel, might be a different technique, might be a different way of teaching, it might be a different tinder. All of those feed in, and as long as we can go, okay, let's make a little tweak here, and we make that change, and then we teach fire lighting again, and it goes better. We might have a different problem, but we're always kind of iterating the next level and reflecting on it. But I really want us to, bringing that process of Kaizen in, it's also the process of reflecting on things that may not necessarily be as overt as the activities and the achievement. So that's the achievement and the well-being of the people that we're working with is of critical importance. But there are other areas that we can improve as well. It can be just, okay, let's see whether we can make the setup easier. How can we make the process of getting all of our kit and equipment onto site and set up easier? Is there a way that we can make that 1% better? For me, the latest 1%, which actually is turning out to have a way bigger impact than 1%, is to obtain a second cart. Now that I often have an extra pair of hands, an assistant, or some of the older kids that are working with me, having a second cart means I can transport double the amount of kit. And they're not waiting around for me to pack a cart and transport it all myself. So we can put that into use, and then we've got 2 carts moving backwards and forwards, moving equipment, and so everything gets set up and packed down a whole lot faster. So that is 1%. That's identifying where there's a roadblock between where we are and where we want to be. It could be in our business accounting. We could be the type of person who waits until the end of the year and then puts in all of the receipts and everything else into the system. How can we make that easier? How can we enable small and measured outcomes? It could be as simple as having a little box that sits next to your computer at home, and you just, when you get to the end of the day, you just drop your receipts in there. That way they're all held together, and next time you have an admin day, they are right there and you can feed them into the system. That can be a 1% better opportunity. So it's just looking at where the struggles are, where the blockages are, where the constrictions are, and can you widen that area and give you more depth, because it all feeds into each other. If you're not worried about your accounts getting done, if your setup and pack down is faster, then you have better energy and more time to work with the people you work with. But opportunities to design resources, to provide different ways of doing things, to round out those plans and go into more detail and depth. It all starts to feed together, but you have to have that kind of constant kind of movement towards something. So you're always looking at something. How can it be better? How can it be better? Now, of course, there is a risk and a danger in there, particularly for those of us, myself included, who fit more on the perfectionist scale. Because the idea with 1% better is to always improve, to always look at ways you can improve. But sometimes you have to stop and step back and go, actually, I've improved a whole lot, because otherwise you can drive yourself in to distraction, and you can never achieve anything because you are always worried about it not being perfect. But actual fact, the idea of Kaizen supports that, preventing that perfectionism, because the idea is you just put out what you have right now, and there you go. I'm just going to dedicate myself to improving it over time. I might not be perfect now, but by the time I've improved it 100 times at 1%, I'm not just going to be 100% ahead, I'm going to be orders of magnitude further. Because remember, we've got compound interest in our efforts. It's not just you have 1% more. So if you are at 100%, 1% more is 101. Next time it's going to be 1% of 101 and compounding forward. So those small adjustments add up, and it helps us just get started. So don't beat yourself up too much. Just dedicate yourself back down to that 1% better. If a session absolutely fell to pieces, and they do sometimes, that's a reality of anything. Anytime you try something new, there is a chance that it's not going to go to plan. In fact, if you're working with children, it's almost a certainty. So just relax, just go, okay, if I could only change one thing about the session as a whole, what would I do? What would I improve? And just focus on that. Bring that one thing in, bring another thing in, just iterate forward and forward. So that's really the thought, is where can you be 1% better across everything? And if you are, as long as you have a focus on one thing per day, that adds up long term. And this is something that I've practiced for years now, and kind of the reason why I'm at the point I am now with in terms of skills and everything was always that 1% better. How can I improve the system that I use to get all the stuff here? How can I improve the system of firelighting to make it more efficient and to increase achievement? There's always another way, and probably the biggest system that I have that has been a result of so many iterations is the tarp shelter that I have just behind the camera here. This was a struggle for me when I was first starting out, because it was just like fuss and difficulty, and just always, I mean, you know, when you're trying to put down a tarp and you've got the kind of icy cold fingers and you're trying to get all the knots undone, I was like, no, this needs to be at least 1% better. And it's like, okay, look online, find an idea, apply it, add another idea. Some of those don't work. Some of that 1% movement might actually set you back too. But as long as you keep on moving, as long as you keep on changing and iterating, then you'll eventually get to the point where you have a functioning system. So 10 years worth of work, and I have a 6-minute setup tarp. And so those 10 years worth of work help bring the original fuss and bother of a 30 to 40 minute setup down to below 6, because it was their constant of improvement. And that is at the same time where you can make leaps further than your Kaizen 1%. Because the 1% relies on you just coming up with the ideas. What can really move you forward even further than that is working with someone else who has already put in all of that effort, who can help you jump ahead. So finding someone who has a workshop or a course or more knowledge, who is willing to mentor you or help you develop a skill, is the one that will move you way further. You can then take the skills you've learned on that 1%, improve them, and soon you'd be in a good place to be able to teach that on to others. So if you want to jump ahead on the subject of tarps and knots, then I do have the relaunch of my Tarps and Knots Masterclass coming up soon. It's a revised and expanded version, putting together all that I've learned is in the last year and a half, in addition to all of the small changes that I've made over the last 10 years. So if that does interest you, if you're looking to move from struggling with knots, having them as an absolute nemesis, to fast and efficient tarp shelters, then do check that out. That would really help me to help you, at the same time as leverage that time, get more than 1% better. With that, I'll say thank you so much for watching and listening. Remember to make the most of every day, and I'll catch you all next time.